Story number 1. Whispers in the San Jacinto shadows. I still wake up in the dead of night. The memory of that fateful evening in the San Jacinto Mountains etched into my mind like a scar that refuses to fade. The crisp mountain air, the towering pines swaying ominously in the wind, and the lingering sense of unease that settled over me remain vivid, haunting reminders of Brandon Swanson's disappearance. Tonight, as I sit alone in my dimly lit study, the shadows cast by the flickering candlelight dance on the walls, and I can almost hear the whispers of that night, carried by the restless winds that sweep through the rugged terrain. Brandon Swanson was my best friend, a spirited 19-year-old with dreams as vast as the mountains we loved to explore. We grew up together, forging our bond on countless hikes and late-night conversations under starlit skies. So when Brandon called his parents that autumn evening, his voice tinged with frustration and fear, I knew something was terribly wrong. It was October 2010, and we had decided to take a shortcut through the San Jacinto wilderness to reach a secluded campsite before dusk. The roads were narrow and winding, flanked by dense forests that seemed to watch our every move. As we navigated the treacherous path, Brandon's car suddenly ground to a halt, the engine sputtering and dying amidst the silent embrace of the mountains. "Not again," he muttered, frustration evident in his tone. "I hate these roads." We attempted to restart the engine, but it was no use. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that danced eerily between the trees. Brandon grabbed his phone, dialing his parents with trembling fingers. "Mom, Dad, it's me." The car broke down. "I'm stuck here on Highway 243 near the old ranger station." His parents' voices were filled with concern, urging him to stay put and promising to send help immediately. But as the minutes ticked by, Brandon's demeanor shifted from frustration to fear. "I think I saw something," he whispered, glancing nervously toward the dense forest. "A bright light over there." Before his parents could respond, the line went dead. The call abruptly terminated. Brandon sat back, eyes wide with a mix of confusion and terror. What the hell was that? We decided to spend the night in the car, hoping the morning would bring clearer skies and a way out. As darkness enveloped the mountains, the temperature dropped sharply, and an uneasy silence settled around us. The forest outside seemed to close in, the trees casting grotesque shadows that twisted and contorted in the flickering headlights. Around midnight, a heavy fog rolled in, enveloping the car in a thick, impenetrable blanket. The temperature plummeted further, and Brandon shivered, pulling his jacket tighter around himself. "This storm was supposed to pass by now," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. That's when we heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping coming from the back of the car. At first, we dismissed it as branches scraping against the window, but the sound grew louder, more insistent. Brandon's eyes darted to the rearview mirror, trying to catch a glimpse of the source. "Did you hear that?" I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "Yeah. What is it?" Before we could react, the tapping stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence. We sat there, frozen, the weight of the unknown pressing down on us. Suddenly, the temperature inside the car dropped to an unbearable cold, our breaths visible in the frigid air. Brandon reached for the heater, but it sputtered and died, leaving us shivering in the darkness. Then, as if the forest itself had come alive, the whispers began, soft, indistinct voices that seemed to echo from the very walls of the car. "Leave now," they murmured, their tones urgent and pleading. Brandon's grip tightened on his phone, fear evident in his eyes. "What do you think they want?" I couldn't find the words to respond, my mind racing to make sense of the supernatural occurrences unfolding around us. The whispers grew louder, more coherent, their messages clear and haunting. "Leave before it's too late." Panic surged through us as the realization dawned. Something malevolent was watching us, waiting for us to make a move. Brandon tried to restart the engine, desperation fueling his actions. But the car remained stubbornly silent. The whispers intensified, surrounding us in a cacophony of sorrow and rage. Leave, now. In a desperate attempt to escape, we decided to abandon the car and seek shelter in the nearby forest. Clutching our belongings, we trudged through the thick snow, the cold seeping into our bones with every step. The forest was a maze of shadows and twisted trees, the path obscured by the relentless snowfall. The whispers followed us, their voices a constant reminder of the thin line between hope and despair. Hours passed as we navigated the treacherous terrain, our strength waning under the oppressive weight of the storm. Brandon stumbled, falling to his knees in the snow, his face pale and eyes hollow. "We need to keep moving," I urged, my voice strained from exhaustion. But the forest had other plans. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, their voices merging into a single, mournful chant. "Leave, now." They seemed to come from all around us, their presence overwhelming. Shadows shifted at the edge of our vision, figures that vanished when we turned to look directly at them. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, our minds teetering on the brink of madness. Desperation drove us to the edge of our endurance. Brandon's breaths were shallow, his body numb from the cold, but we pressed on, guided by a flicker of hope that we would find help. The whispers reached a fever pitch, their voices echoing through the trees like the cries of the lost. "Leave, now." Just when it seemed all was lost, a faint light appeared through the trees, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. We stumbled towards it, the whispers fading into the distance as the storm began to abate. Exhausted and broken, we reached a small cabin nestled in a clearing, its windows glowing with a warm, inviting light. Relief washed over us as we pushed open the door, seeking refuge from the relentless storm. Inside, the cabin was cozy and welcoming, a stark contrast to the horrors we had endured. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. An elderly woman sat by the fire, her eyes kind yet tinged with sorrow. "Welcome," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm to our frayed nerves. "You've been through a lot." We collapsed onto the floor, grateful for the warmth and shelter. As we rested, Brandon recounted the events of the night, his voice shaky but resolute. "I saw the light, and then everything changed. The whispers, they wouldn't let us leave." The woman listened intently, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she nodded slowly. "You encountered the spirits of the Bennington Triangle. They protect their domain fiercely, punishing those who trespass without respect. Fear and confusion battled within me. How do we escape their wrath?" She rose and approached us, her gaze piercing yet compassionate. "You must show them respect and leave the land they guard. Acknowledge their presence and promise to honor their memory. Only then will they allow you to leave in peace." We nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. As dawn broke, the storm had completely subsided, leaving behind a serene landscape bathed in the soft glow of morning light. We thanked the woman, her presence a comforting reminder that not all hope was lost. As we left the cabin and made our way back to civilization, the whispers had ceased, replaced by the gentle rustling of the trees and the distant call of birds. The Bennington Triangle had let us go, but the memory of those lost souls lingered like a shadow on my soul. Brandon and I never spoke of that night again, the haunting whispers a reminder of the thin line between the living and the dead. Years have passed since that harrowing ordeal, but the echoes of the San Jacinto shadows still resonate within me. On cold, silent nights, when the wind howls just right, I can still hear the whispers of those lost souls, calling out from the depths of the mountains. Their voices blend with the rustling pines and the falling snow, a haunting symphony that never truly fades. I often find myself staring into the darkness, wondering if the spirits of the Bennington Triangle have found peace or remain trapped in their eternal vigil. The mountains stand as silent sentinels, their peaks piercing the heavens like the eyes of the lost, watching over a land that holds its secrets tightly. The symbols and markings we discovered still haunt my dreams. A reminder of the thin line between curiosity and hubris, between discovery and desecration. In sharing this story, I hope to honor those who vanished without a trace, to give voice to their silent screams that still echo through the forests of Vermont. Let it be a cautionary tale to those who dare to tread the paths of the unknown, to respect the forces that lie beyond our control. For in the heart of the Bennington Triangle, amidst the swirling snow and restless spirits, lies a darkness that can never be fully understood or escaped. And so, when the winds howl and the snow begins to fall, I remember the shadows of Bennington. I remember the faces of those we lost, their eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and I understand that some tragedies leave scars that time cannot heal, and some spirits never find the peace they so desperately seek. The Bennington Triangle may remain a place of beauty and mystery, but its legacy endures. A chilling reminder of the night when humanity's quest for truth met the forest's unforgiving wrath, creating a tale of horror that will never fade. Story number 2. Shadows of Bennington. I still wake up in the dead of night, the oppressive silence of my bedroom interrupted only by the distant howling of wolves and the rustling of leaves outside my window. It's been decades since I last walked the trails of the Bennington Triangle. Yet the memories of those lost years haunt me like restless spirits. Tonight, as I sit alone in my study, the shadows cast by the flickering candlelight dance eerily on the walls, and I can almost hear the whispers of those who vanished, carried by the cold Vermont winds that never seem to cease. I was an avid hiker, drawn to the untamed beauty and mystery of Vermont's wilderness. The Bennington Triangle, a region nestled between the towns of Woodford, Stratton Mountain, and Glastonbury, had always intrigued me. Stories of unexplained disappearances from the 1940s and 1950s whispered through the small communities like ghost tales, each account more chilling than the last. Determined to uncover the truth behind these enigmatic vanishings, I embarked on a solo expedition that would forever change my perception of reality. The summer of 1982 was warm and inviting, the perfect time for exploration. Armed with maps, a sturdy backpack, and an unquenchable curiosity, I set out to traverse the heart of the Bennington Triangle. The trails were rugged and overgrown, nature reclaiming paths once well-trodden. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the canopy thickened, casting long shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. The air was thick with the scent of pine and earth, a comforting yet eerie backdrop to my journey. By the third day, the weather began to shift. Dark clouds rolled in from the west, the sky turning an ominous shade of gray. Rain started to fall in heavy sheets, drumming against my tent with a ferocity that mirrored the growing unease in my heart. I had heard tales of hikers caught in sudden storms, their camps abandoned in haste, leaving behind only the echoes of their last moments. As night descended, the storm intensified, the wind howling through the trees like the cries of lost souls. I huddled inside my tent, trying to stay warm and dry, but sleep eluded me. The sounds of the storm outside were relentless, each gust of wind a reminder of my isolation. In the darkness, I began to hear them, soft, indistinct whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the forest. At first, I dismissed them as the wind playing tricks on my mind, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent, forming words that sent shivers down my spine. "Leave now," they seemed to say, a dire warning carried on the storm's fury. Panic set in as I realized the severity of my situation. The trail markers were washed away by the relentless rain, leaving me disoriented and unsure of my path. I decided to venture out, hoping to find some semblance of shelter or a way back to civilization. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and shifting darkness, the trees looming like silent sentinels watching my every move. The whispers followed me, their voices a haunting melody that echoed through the storm. Hours turned into days as I wandered aimlessly, the forest becoming a nightmarish landscape where reality and nightmare blurred into one. My supplies dwindled, and hunger gnawed at me relentlessly. But the cold was the true adversary, seeping into my bones and breaking my spirit. Sleep became a distant memory as the whispers tormented me, their voices a constant reminder of the thin line between hope and despair. One night, as I struggled to find shelter beneath a fallen tree, I saw a faint light flickering through the trees. Hope surged within me, a fragile lifeline in the midst of the darkness. I followed the light, the whispers growing louder and more urgent, until I stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. The door creaked open with a gust of wind, inviting me into its decaying interior. Desperate for warmth, I entered, only to be met with a scene straight out of a nightmare. The cabin was frozen in time, furniture covered in thick layers of dust and cobwebs. But what chilled me to the bone was the sight of footprints leading to a corner of the room where a circle of candles burned with an unholy light. In the center stood 3 figures, their forms obscured by shadows, their eyes hollow and void of life. They turned to face me, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. "Why are you here?" one of them whispered, his voice a hollow echo that seemed to reverberate through the very walls of the cabin. I tried to speak, to explain my plight, but my voice was lost in the oppressive atmosphere. The candles flickered wildly, and the whispers intensified, filling the room with a cacophony of sorrow and rage. The figures began to move, their movements unnatural and jerky, as if controlled by unseen forces. I backed away, my heart pounding in my chest, but the door slammed shut, trapping me inside. Desperation and fear clawed at my mind as I struggled to escape, but the shadows held me captive, their whispers transforming into anguished cries. Images flashed before my eyes, faces of those who had vanished before me, their expressions twisted in agony, their voices a haunting reminder of the forest's dark secrets. I realized too late that I was not merely lost in the wilderness, but trapped in a realm where the spirits of the Bennington Triangle sought vengeance on those who dared to trespass. With a final surge of willpower, I broke free from the shadows, running into the storm once more. The whispers followed me, their voices a relentless barrage of pain and sorrow that threatened to drive me mad. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees twisting into grotesque shapes, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands trying to pull me back into the darkness. The storm raged on, the wind howling like banshees, and the snow blinded my path forward. Days blurred into a never-ending nightmare as I continued to wander, the forest becoming a living, breathing entity that sought to consume me. My strength waned, my body numb from the cold, but my mind remained tormented by the whispers of the lost. I began to see apparitions, ghostly figures that glided through the snow, their eyes filled with an otherworldly sorrow. They reached out to me, their hands passing through my flesh like mist, leaving behind a chilling reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead. One fateful night, as I lay shivering in a makeshift shelter, the whispers coalesced into a single, desperate plea. "Leave, now." The voices of the lost echoed through the storm, their cries a haunting melody that pierced the depths of my soul. I felt an invisible force pressing down on me, the weight of their sorrow bearing down on my very being. In that moment, I understood the true horror of the Bennington Triangle. It was not merely a place of isolation and harsh weather, but a nexus of restless spirits seeking to trap the living in their eternal suffering. With the last remnants of my strength, I pushed myself up, determined to escape the cursed forest. The whispers faded into the distance as I stumbled through the snow, the storm beginning to abate as dawn approached. Exhausted and broken, I finally emerged from the wilderness, the site of civilization a beacon of hope that I had almost lost. Rescue teams found me days later, my body emaciated and frostbitten, my mind scarred by the horrors I had endured. The Bennington Triangle remains a place of mystery and fear, its dark legacy a testament to the thin line between the living and the dead. I often find myself haunted by the whispers of those lost souls, their voices a constant reminder of the night I confronted the shadows of Bennington. On cold, silent nights, when the wind howls just right, I can still hear their cries, echoing through the darkness, forever entwined with my own desperate quest for survival. In sharing my story, I hope to honor those who vanished without a trace, to give voice to their silent screams that still echo through the forests of Vermont. Let it be a cautionary tale to those who dare to tread the paths of the unknown, to respect the forces that lie beyond our control. For in the heart of the Bennington Triangle, amidst the swirling snow and restless spirits, lies a darkness that can never be fully understood or escaped. And so, when the winds howl and the snow begins to fall, I remember the shadows of Bennington. I remember the faces of those we lost, their eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and I understand that some tragedies leave scars that time cannot heal, and some spirits never find the peace they so desperately seek. The Bennington Triangle may remain a place of beauty and mystery, but its legacy endures. A chilling reminder of the night when humanity's curiosity met the forest's unforgiving wrath, creating a tale of horror that will never fade. Story number 3. Shadows of the Mary Celeste. I still wake up drenched in sweat, the eerie silence of my room shattered by the distant echo of waves crashing against unseen shores. It's been years since I first delved into the mystery of the Mary Celeste. Yet the memories haunt me as vividly as the fog that once enveloped her ghostly figure. Tonight, as I sit alone in my study, the shadows cast by the flickering candlelight dance ominously on the walls, and I can almost hear the whispers of those lost souls, carried by the restless spirits that linger in the depths of the Atlantic. I was a maritime historian, driven by an insatiable curiosity to uncover the truths behind the sea's most enduring enigmas. The story of the Mary Celeste captivated me from the moment I first read about her. A ship found abandoned in 1872, sails still billowing in the wind, cargo untouched, and no sign of struggle or distress. The crew of 7 had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and supernatural speculations. Determined to uncover the truth, I embarked on a journey that would lead me to the very heart of the mystery. In the summer of 1995, I joined a small research team aboard the vessel Endeavour, setting sail from New York with the sole purpose of retracing the Mary Celeste's ill-fated voyage. The Atlantic Ocean, vast and unforgiving, became both our ally and adversary as we navigated the treacherous waters that had claimed so many lives. The further we ventured from shore, the more the sea seemed to close in around us, the horizon blurring into an endless expanse of blue and gray. Our mission was twofold: to locate any remnants of the Mary Celeste that might lie hidden beneath the waves and to gather first-hand accounts from those who had studied the incident. Legends spoke of strange occurrences around the wreckage site, unexplained lights, phantom apparitions, and voices carried on the wind that whispered secrets of the deep. Skeptics dismissed these tales as sailors' lore, but I couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease that settled over our crew as we approached the coordinates believed to be the ship's final resting place. One chilly evening, as dusk began to cast long shadows over the ocean, we received word of a fisherman who had spotted debris resembling the Mary Celeste. Excitement surged through the crew as we altered our course, the promise of discovery fueling our determination. Days turned into weeks as we scoured the ocean floor with our advanced sonar equipment, each beep of the device heightening our anticipation and anxiety. Then, one moonless night, our patience was rewarded. The sonar detected a massive object lying beneath the waves, its silhouette unmistakably that of a large sailing vessel. Our hearts raced as we prepared the submersible to investigate, the weight of history pressing down on us. As we descended into the abyss, the temperature dropped, and the water around us grew colder, the darkness becoming absolute. Reaching the wreckage, we were greeted by a sight both magnificent and macabre. The Mary Celeste lay in repose, her hull intact, sails torn but still catching the faintest hint of wind. The cargo was undisturbed, as if the ship had simply vanished into thin air, leaving no clue to the fate of her crew. But as we explored further, a chilling realization dawned upon us. The ship was not as abandoned as it seemed. In the bowels of the ship, we discovered personal journals and letters, their pages frayed by time and moisture. They spoke of mounting tension among the crew, strange noises in the dead of night, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. One entry, dated the day before the disappearance, sent shivers down my spine. Tonight, the sea feels alive, watching us with 1,000 eyes. I fear what lies beneath may have taken notice of our presence. We must remain vigilant, lest we become its next victims. A sense of dread settled over us as we pieced together the final days of the Mary Celeste. The ship had encountered something, an unknown force that had driven the crew to madness, causing their inexplicable disappearance. But what could it have been? A violent storm? Piracy? Or something far more sinister? As we prepared to leave, a violent storm erupted without warning, the waves crashing against our vessel with an intensity that mirrored the turmoil we had uncovered. Lightning illuminated the sky in jagged streaks, and thunder roared like the wrath of the gods. The sea seemed to come alive, the very water beneath us thrashing in rebellion against our intrusion. Amidst the chaos, our radio went silent, the storm severing our connection to the outside world. Panic set in as we realized we were at the mercy of the elements. Our journey back home thwarted by the same forces that had claimed the Mary Celeste. The winds howled like banshees, and the ship groaned under the strain of the tempest, the shadows around us growing deeper and more foreboding. In the heart of the storm, I found myself alone, separated from the rest of the crew by a violent surge of water. Struggling to regain control, I was pulled towards the bow of the ship, the very place where the Mary Celeste had been found. As I reached out to steady myself, a cold hand clasped around my wrist, freezing me in place. A figure emerged from the darkness, a spectral apparition clad in the remnants of a sailor's uniform, his eyes hollow and filled with sorrow. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered, his voice echoing through the storm. "The sea takes what it wants, and tonight, it takes you." I tried to break free, but the apparition's grip was unyielding, his presence overwhelming. The storm intensified, the winds clawing at my skin, and the ocean's fury mirrored the torment of the lost souls trapped within the Mary Celeste. Visions of the crew's final moments flooded my mind, panic-stricken faces, desperate cries for help, and the inexorable pull of the abyss. With a surge of adrenaline, I managed to wrench myself free, stumbling back to the safety of the ship's deck. The apparition vanished as abruptly as he had appeared, leaving me trembling and alone amidst the raging storm. Determined to survive, I rallied the remaining crew, our spirits forged in the crucible of terror and loss. Together, we battled the tempest, the memory of the Mary Celeste driving us forward against the relentless onslaught of nature's wrath. Days turned into nights as we fought to stay afloat, the storm showing no signs of relenting. Supplies were dwindling, and exhaustion weighed heavily on us. But the determination to return home kept us moving. The whispers of the lost crew lingered in my mind, a constant reminder of the fine line between life and death, hope and despair. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the storm began to abate, the winds dying down and the waves calming to a gentle lull. Exhausted and broken, we emerged from the tempest, battered but alive. The sky cleared, revealing a serene expanse of blue, the calm after the storm a stark contrast to the chaos we had endured. Rescue ships appeared on the horizon, their presence a beacon of hope that guided us back to safety. As we were pulled aboard, the weight of our ordeal settled in. The memories of the Mary Celeste and the spirits of her lost crew etched into our souls. The mystery of their disappearance remained unsolved, a riddle wrapped in the icy embrace of the Atlantic. But one thing was clear: we had faced the darkness that lay beneath the waves and emerged stronger, forever changed by the shadows of the Mary Celeste. Years have passed since that harrowing journey, but the echoes of the great blizzard and the whispers of the lost souls still resonate within me. On cold, silent nights, when the wind howls just right, I can still hear their voices calling out from the depths of the ocean. A haunting reminder of the thin line between curiosity and hubris, between discovery and desecration. The Mary Celeste remains a symbol of the sea's unforgiving nature and the mysteries that lie beneath its surface. A testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring legacy of those who dared to brave the unknown. In sharing this story, I hope to honor the memory of the Mary Celeste's crew, to give voice to their silent screams that still echo through the waves. Let it serve as a cautionary tale to those who seek to uncover the secrets of the deep, to respect the forces that lie beyond our control. For in the heart of the storm, amidst the swirling waters and restless spirits, lies a darkness that can never be fully understood or escaped. And so, when the winds howl and the sea begins to churn, I remember the shadows of the Mary Celeste. I remember the faces of those we lost, their eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and I understand that some tragedies leave scars that time cannot heal, and some spirits never find the peace they so desperately seek. The Mary Celeste may drift aimlessly across the pages of history, but her legacy endures, a chilling reminder of the night when nature's wrath and the spirits of the lost converged to create a tale of horror that will never fade. Story number 4. Whispers of the Flannan Lighthouse. I still wake up drenched in sweat, the bitter cold seeping into my bones long after I've left the lighthouse behind. The memory of Flannan Isles in 1900 haunts me, lingering like the persistent fog that once enveloped those desolate rocks. Tonight, as I sit alone in my study, the shadows cast by the flickering candlelight dance eerily on the walls, and I can almost hear the whispers of those lost souls, carried by the restless winds that never seem to cease. I was a maritime historian, drawn to the mysteries of the sea and the tales of those who dared to tame its unforgiving nature. The story of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur captured my imagination like few others. Their sudden disappearance, with no trace of violence or struggle, left more questions than answers. It was a riddle wrapped in the icy embrace of the North Atlantic, and I was determined to uncover the truth. In the summer of 1986, I embarked on a journey to the remote Flannan Isles, a group of uninhabited rocks perched precariously in the Atlantic Ocean, some 60 miles west of Scotland. The lighthouse, automated since the disappearance, stood as a silent sentinel over the tumultuous seas. As our small research vessel approached the islands, the sky darkened with heavy clouds, and the wind began to howl with an almost sentient fury. The isolation was palpable, the sheer emptiness of the islands pressing down on me like a physical weight. Our team of 3, myself, a local guide named Ewan, and a fellow historian, Margaret, arrived at the lighthouse by midday. The structure was weathered but sturdy, its white facade stark against the gray expanse of the ocean. We set up our equipment, determined to document every inch of the lighthouse and delve into the lives of those who once guarded its light. As night fell, the temperature plummeted, and the wind intensified, rattling the windows and doors with relentless force. We huddled around a small fire, sharing stories of the past and the theories surrounding the disappearance. Some speculated about violent storms. Others whispered of supernatural forces at play. I couldn't shake the feeling that the lighthouse held secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. Around midnight, a deafening crash echoed through the night, the sound of waves battering against the rocky shore with a ferocity that seemed almost otherworldly. The ground beneath us trembled, and the lighthouse swayed ominously in the wind. Ewan and Margaret exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions mirroring the dread that had begun to take root in my heart. We decided to investigate the source of the noise, braving the howling wind and driving snow to reach the shore. The path was treacherous, each step a battle against the elements. As we approached the base of the lighthouse, the air grew colder, the whispers of the past seeming to swirl around us like the storm itself. There, partially buried in the snow, lay remnants of what appeared to be a campsite, tattered clothing, a broken lantern, and an unfinished meal. My heart pounded as I realized we were standing in the very place where the keepers had last been seen. The fire pit was cold and empty, save for the remnants of a meal that had been abandoned in haste. No signs of struggle, no traces of violence, only the eerie silence of a place that had lost its guardians to the unforgiving sea. Suddenly, the wind shifted, and the temperature plummeted even further. Shadows seemed to lengthen and twist around us, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Leave, now," they seemed to chant, their voices blending with the howling storm. Ewan grabbed my arm, his grip tight with fear. "We should go back," he urged, his voice barely audible over the tempest. But curiosity, that insatiable hunger for the truth, pushed me forward. "We need to understand what happened here," I insisted, my voice trembling. "There's something we're missing." Reluctantly, Ewan and Margaret followed, and we made our way back to the lighthouse. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with an oppressive stillness, broken only by the occasional creak of wood and the relentless wind outside. We began our search, meticulously documenting every room, every corner, hoping to find clues that had eluded investigators for over a century. In the keeper's quarters, we found personal belongings, worn books, letters, and photographs that painted a picture of a simple, yet fulfilling life. But as we delved deeper, the air grew colder, the shadows darker. Margaret stumbled upon an old journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. She began to read aloud, her voice barely a whisper. "They speak of strange occurrences, of whispers in the night and visions that defy reason. The storm grows fiercer each day, as if the sea itself is angry. I fear that the light will fail, and we will be lost to the darkness forever." A chill ran down my spine as I listened to her recite the haunting words. The journal ended abruptly, the last entry torn away by an unseen force. It was as if the keepers themselves had been silenced, their fate sealed by something beyond our understanding. As we continued our exploration, the temperature dropped further, our breaths visible in the icy air. The whispers returned, now echoing through the halls like ghostly apparitions. Shadows moved just beyond our line of sight, their presence a constant reminder of the past that refused to stay buried. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, a sensation that we were not alone in the lighthouse. In the heart of the lighthouse, we discovered a hidden chamber, concealed behind a false wall. The room was small and cramped, filled with symbols and markings that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. At the center stood an altar, its surface etched with ancient runes that glowed faintly in the dim light. The air was thick with an oppressive force, and the whispers grew louder, more frantic. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and the room plunged into darkness. The symbols on the altar began to shimmer, their glow intensifying until the entire chamber was bathed in a blinding light. The whispers reached a fever pitch, their voices merging into a deafening chorus that seemed to pierce my very soul. "Join us forever." I tried to move, to escape the chamber, but my body was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear and the overwhelming power of the storm. The shadows converged around us, their forms becoming more defined, their eyes burning with an unholy light. Ewan and Margaret were no longer by my side. They had been consumed by the darkness, their forms dissolving into mist as the spirits of the lost keepers claimed their souls. Desperation surged through me as the light intensified, threatening to engulf me entirely. I screamed, a raw, primal sound that was swallowed by the storm. But the grip of the spirits was too strong. The chamber seemed to stretch into eternity, the boundaries between reality and nightmare obliterated. I was pulled into the abyss, my consciousness fading as the spirits of Flannan Isles dragged me into their eternal winter. When I awoke, I was back on the research vessel. The storm had passed, and the lighthouse stood silent once more. Ewan and Margaret were gone, their fate sealed by the very secrets we had sought to uncover. The whispers had ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that spoke of both relief and profound loss. I was the sole survivor of our ill-fated expedition, my mind scarred by the horrors we had witnessed. Years have passed since that tragic night, but the memories linger like the frost on my skin. On cold, silent nights, when the wind howls just right, I can still hear the whispers of those we lost, calling out from the depths of Flannan Isles. Their voices blend with the rustling pines and the crashing waves, a haunting symphony that never truly fades. I often find myself staring into the darkness, wondering if the spirits of Flannan Isles have found peace or remain trapped in their eternal vigil. The lighthouse stands as a monument to their suffering, its light forever extinguished by the malevolent forces that claimed their lives. The symbols and markings we discovered still haunt my dreams, a reminder of the thin line between curiosity and hubris, between discovery and desecration. In sharing this story, I hope to honor those who did not make it, to give voice to the silent screams that still echo through the halls of Flannan Isles. Let it be a cautionary tale to those who dare to trespass into the unknown, to respect the forces that lie beyond our control. For in the heart of the storm, amidst the swirling snow and restless spirits, lies a darkness that can never be fully understood or escaped. And so, when the winds howl and the snow begins to fall, I remember the whispers of Flannan Isles. I remember the faces of those we lost, their eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and I understand that some tragedies leave scars that time cannot heal, and some spirits never find the peace they so desperately seek. Flannan Isles may remain a place of mystery and tragedy, but its legacy endures, a chilling reminder of the night when humanity's quest for truth met the island's unforgiving wrath, creating a tale of horror that will never fade. Story number 5. Whispers of the Ural Night. I still wake up drenched in sweat, the icy tendrils of fear wrapping around my heart like the relentless grip of death itself. It's been decades since the Dyatlov Pass incident, yet the memories haunt me with the clarity of a frozen nightmare. Tonight, as I sit alone in my dimly lit cabin deep within the Ural Mountains, the wind outside howls like the tormented souls of those lost, and I can almost hear their whispers carried by the biting cold. I was one of the 9, a group of seasoned hikers bound by friendship, ambition, and the thrill of conquering nature's most unforgiving terrains. Our journey to the Dyatlov Pass was meticulously planned, every detail accounted for, or so we thought. The allure of untouched snow, the challenge of the rugged landscape, and the camaraderie that only true adventurers understand drove us forward. Little did we know, we were venturing into a realm where the lines between reality and the supernatural blurred into oblivion. The expedition began in late January 1959, our spirits high as we navigated the treacherous slopes of the Ural Mountains. The weather was harsh but manageable, the snow crisp beneath our boots, the sky a perpetual gray canvas. We set up our camp under the cover of a dense forest, the towering pines standing as silent witnesses to our quest. The nights were long and cold, but we found solace in shared stories and the warmth of our camaraderie. On the third night, an unnatural stillness descended upon the pass. The usual sounds of nocturnal wildlife were eerily absent, replaced by an oppressive silence that pressed down on us like a physical weight. As midnight approached, a fierce blizzard erupted with a vengeance, the wind howling through the trees with a fury that felt almost sentient. Visibility plummeted to mere feet, and the snow began to fall in heavy, relentless sheets. We huddled together in our tent, trying to maintain warmth and morale amidst the chaos. The storm raged outside, each gust of wind threatening to tear our shelter apart. It was then that the whispers began, a soft, almost imperceptible murmur that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the mountains. At first, we dismissed it as the wind's playful tricks, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent, weaving through the fabric of our tent like ghostly fingers. "Leave now," the voices seemed to say, their tones urgent and pleading. Panic set in as we realized the severity of the situation. The storm showed no signs of relenting, and the whispers became a chorus of desperate pleas, echoing in our minds and fueling our fear. We debated whether to stay and wait out the storm or attempt to move to a safer location. But the blinding snow and howling wind made any decision feel perilous. By dawn, the storm had subsided to a relentless snowdrift, covering the landscape in a thick, impenetrable blanket. Exhausted and frostbitten, we emerged from our tent to survey the damage. The forest around us was transformed into a ghostly white wasteland, the trees heavy with snow, their branches bent and broken. Our camp was in ruins, the remnants of our shelter torn apart from within, as if some unseen force had ripped it from the inside out. Desperation clawed at us as we realized we were trapped, miles away from any semblance of civilization. Supplies were dwindling rapidly, and the biting cold was relentless, seeping into our bones and numbing our senses. As the days turned into nights, the psychological strain began to take its toll. The whispers returned, now accompanied by apparitions, shadowy figures that lurked just beyond the edge of our vision, their hollow eyes staring into nothingness. One night, I found myself alone, separated from the group by a sudden, unexplained force. The whispers were deafening, the apparitions more vivid and terrifying than ever before. I stumbled through the snow, the weight of fear dragging me down, until I reached a clearing where the moonlight illuminated a circle of Moai statues standing ominously in the snow. Their stone faces seemed to watch me, their expressions frozen in eternal sorrow and rage. "Why do you trespass?" A voice boomed from the shadows, reverberating through the clearing. I turned to see a towering figure cloaked in darkness, its presence exuding an aura of malevolence. "This land is sacred. Leave, or join us in the eternal night." I tried to flee, but my legs refused to obey, the cold and fear paralyzing me. The figure advanced, the whispers morphing into screams of agony and despair. Shadows danced around me, the spirits of those lost in the storm reaching out with ghostly hands. I felt an icy grip tighten around my heart, pulling me into a vortex of pain and sorrow. When I awoke, I was back at the ruined camp, my limbs numb and my mind teetering on the brink of madness. The group was scattered, each member displaying signs of extreme distress, frozen in place, their eyes vacant, some with grotesque injuries that defied explanation. It was as if the mountain itself had claimed them, their spirits forever bound to the icy expanse. Days melded into a haze of survival and horror. We rationed our meager supplies, but hunger gnawed at us relentlessly, and the cold was an unyielding foe. The whispers were a constant companion, their voices blending with the howling wind to create a symphony of despair. Accusations and paranoia fractured our unity, friendships dissolving under the weight of our dire circumstances. One night, driven by a desperate need for warmth and shelter, I ventured deeper into the forest, following the whispers that promised a sanctuary from the storm's wrath. The snow was relentless, each step a battle against the biting cold and the encroaching darkness. As I trudged through the whiteout, the apparitions appeared more frequently, their presence a haunting reminder of our doomed fate. In a secluded grove, I discovered an old, abandoned cabin, its windows shattered and its door hanging ajar. The whispers led me inside, where the air was thick with the scent of decay and despair. The remnants of past occupants lay scattered, frozen in time, their bodies twisted in unnatural poses, their faces contorted in silent screams. The cabin was a tomb, a repository of lost souls who had fallen victim to the mountain's curse. As I explored the desolate interior, the whispers grew louder, their voices now a cacophony of sorrow and anger. The temperature plummeted further, my breath visible in the frigid air as frost began to form on the surfaces around me. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread as I realized that the cabin was a nexus of the supernatural, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thinnest. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and the apparitions converged around me, their eyes burning with an otherworldly light. "You cannot escape," they intoned in unison, their voices echoing through the cabin. "Join us in the eternal night," I screamed, a raw, primal sound that was swallowed by the storm. But the grip of the spirits was too strong. The world around me dissolved into a swirling vortex of snow and shadows, the boundaries between reality and nightmare obliterated. I was pulled into the abyss, the spirits of Dyatlov Pass dragging me into their eternal winter, my soul forever bound to the cursed land. When I finally regained consciousness, I was back at the camp, the storm having subsided but the damage already done. My group was no longer whole, their bodies scattered and their spirits lost to the mountain. The whispers had ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that spoke of both relief and profound loss. We were survivors of a tragedy that defied explanation, our lives forever intertwined with the dark legacy of Dyatlov Pass. Years have passed since that harrowing ordeal, but the memories remain as vivid as the frost that once consumed us. On cold, silent nights, when the wind howls just right, I can still hear the whispers of those we lost, calling out from the depths of the Ural Mountains. Their voices blend with the rustling pines and the falling snow, a haunting symphony that never truly fades. I often find myself staring into the darkness, wondering if the spirits of Dyatlov Pass have found peace or remain trapped in their eternal winter. The mountain stands as a monument to our suffering, its peaks piercing the heavens like the eyes of the lost, watching over a land that holds its secrets tightly. The Moai statues, ancient and enigmatic, seem to guard the island's dark past, their silent presence a constant reminder of the thin line between survival and surrender. In sharing this story, I hope to honor those who did not make it, to give voice to the silent screams that still echo through the mountains. Let it be a cautionary tale to those who dare to challenge the wild, to respect the forces that lie beyond our control. For in the heart of the storm, amidst the swirling snow and restless spirits, lies a darkness that can never be fully understood or escaped. And so, when the winds howl and the snow begins to fall, I remember the echoes of Dyatlov Pass. I remember the faces of those we lost, their eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and I understand that some tragedies leave scars that time cannot heal, and some spirits never find the peace they so desperately seek. Dyatlov Pass may remain a place of mystery and tragedy, but its legacy endures, a chilling reminder of the night when humanity's quest for adventure met the unforgiving wrath of nature and the restless spirits of the lost, creating a tale of horror that will never fade. Story number 6. Whispers of Rapa Nui. I still wake up drenched in sweat, the haunting echoes of that night on Rapa Nui reverberating through my dreams. It's been decades since I set foot on Easter Island, yet the memories remain as vivid and chilling as the midnight winds that swept across the Moai statues. Tonight, as I sit alone in my study, the shadows cast by the flickering candlelight dance on the walls, and I can almost hear the whispers of those lost souls, carried by the restless spirits of the island. I was an archaeologist, driven by a fascination with the enigmatic Moai and the mysteries shrouding Rapa Nui. The allure of uncovering the secrets behind the island's sudden depopulation was irresistible. Our team, a group of passionate scholars and adventurers, arrived on the island in the spring of 1972, eager to delve into its ancient history. Little did we know, we were about to confront forces beyond our understanding. The island greeted us with its stark beauty, towering cliffs, dense forests, and the imposing presence of the Moai, standing sentinel over the land. The locals, descendants of the original Rapa Nui, were welcoming yet guarded, their eyes reflecting a deep-seated sorrow that hinted at untold stories. We settled into our research camp near Ahu Tongariki, the largest ceremonial platform adorned with 15 Moai, their stoic gazes piercing the horizon. From the outset, something felt off. The air was thick with an oppressive stillness, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of seabirds. Days were spent meticulously documenting the statues, measuring their proportions, and attempting to decode the intricate carvings that adorned them. Nights, however, were a different story entirely. One evening, as the sun dipped below the ocean, casting long shadows across the island, we gathered around a bonfire to discuss our findings. The flames flickered ominously, casting eerie patterns on the faces of the moai. As the night deepened, an unnatural silence enveloped the island, the usual nocturnal sounds conspicuously absent. It was then that we began to hear them, soft, indistinct whispers that seemed to emanate from the very stones we were studying. First, we dismissed them as the wind playing tricks on our minds, or perhaps the sound of distant waves crashing against the cliffs. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent, forming words that sent shivers down our spines. "Leave now," they seemed to say, a dire warning carried on the cold night air. Fear took root among us, yet curiosity pushed us to investigate further. The next morning, we decided to explore the southern part of the island, where legends spoke of ancient rituals and mysterious disappearances. As we trekked through the dense foliage, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive, the air heavy with an unspoken dread. We arrived at a secluded area dominated by a single, massive moai, larger and more imposing than any we had documented before. His face was weathered, eyes seemingly alive with sorrow and pain. Suddenly, the ground beneath us trembled, and the sky darkened as if an unseen force was swallowing the light. The temperature plummeted, our breaths visible in the frigid air. The whispers returned, now louder and more urgent, echoing through the trees. They took them. "Don't let it happen again." The words were fragmented, but their meaning was clear. Something terrible had occurred here, something that demanded our departure. Panic set in as the wind howled around us. Snow beginning to fall despite it being the height of summer. Visibility dropped to mere feet, the snowflakes swirling in a chaotic dance that obscured our vision. The moai seemed to come alive, their stone faces contorting into expressions of anguish and rage. Shadows flitted between the statues, ephemeral figures that vanished when approached. My colleagues and I huddled together, the weight of our predicament pressing down on us. One of our team, Dr. Elena Morales, suggested we return to camp, but the storm made navigation nearly impossible. As we struggled against the blinding snow, one by one, my friends began to disappear, swallowed by the whiteout without a trace. Desperation and fear gnawed at our sanity as we realized we were not alone. Something malevolent haunted the island, a restless spirit determined to protect its secrets. Night fell again, and the whispers intensified, transforming into anguished cries and pleas for help. I found myself alone, the storm raging around me, the moai watching with their lifeless eyes. In the midst of the tempest, a figure emerged from the snow, a spectral apparition clad in traditional Rapa Nui garb, her eyes hollow with sorrow. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice a mournful echo. "This land is cursed. Leave before it claims you too." I tried to speak, to plead for mercy, but my voice was silenced by the storm's fury. The apparition reached out, her hand passing through me like mist, and I felt an icy grip tighten around my heart. Images flashed before my eyes, visions of the island's past, of rituals gone wrong, of lives lost to the unforgiving environment and the wrath of the gods. The moai loomed over us, guardians of a sacred and terrible power that should never be disturbed. With a surge of willpower, I broke free from the apparition's grasp and began to run, the storm tearing at my clothes and numbing my limbs. The whispers morphed into screams, the spirits of the lost crying out for vengeance. I stumbled through the blinding snow, the island's curse bearing down on me, every step a battle against the elements and the darkness that sought to consume me. Just as hope seemed lost, the storm began to abate, the winds dying down and the snow settling into a thick, impenetrable blanket. Exhausted and broken, I made my way back to the camp, only to find it abandoned. The tents collapsed under the weight of the snow, and my colleagues gone without a trace. The The silence was deafening. The only sound my ragged breathing and the distant crash of waves against the cliffs. Days passed as I wandered the island, searching for any sign of life, but the spirits remained. Their presence a constant reminder of the night I confronted the island's darkest secrets. I eventually found my way to the main settlement, where remnants of the past lay scattered, broken tools, decaying structures, and the ever-watchful Moai standing sentinel over the desolate landscape. In the final days of my ordeal, I encountered the spirits once more, their whispers now a soothing balm rather than a source of terror. They spoke of balance and respect, of the fragile harmony between humanity and nature. The island demanded acknowledgement of its power, a promise to honor the lives lost and the secrets buried beneath the snow and stone. Rescue arrived just as I was about to succumb to the island's embrace. A team of modern explorers drawn by rumors and the mysterious disappearance of our group. As I was led away, the apparitions faded into the mist, their whispers a haunting farewell. The Moai stood silent once more, their ancient eyes guarding the island's eternal secrets. Years have passed since my escape from Rapa Nui, but the memories linger like the frost on my skin. On cold, silent nights, I find myself staring into the darkness, hearing the whispers of the lost, calling out from the depths of the island. The Moai's gaze follows me, a reminder of the thin line between curiosity and hubris, between discovery and desecration. I often return to my study, surrounded by relics and notes from that fateful expedition, trying to piece together the fragments of my shattered sanity. The island's curse, if it can be called that, is a testament to the power of nature and the spirits that inhabit it. It serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, some places untouched by the hands of man. In sharing this story, I hope to honor those we lost, to give voice to the silent screams that still echo through the halls of Rapa Nui. Let it be a warning to those who dare to trespass into the unknown, to respect the forces that lie beyond our control. For in the heart of the island, amidst the towering Moai and the restless spirits, lies a darkness that can never be fully understood or escaped. And so, when the winds howl and the snow begins to fall, I remember the whispers of Rapa Nui. I remember the faces of those we lost, their eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and I understand that some tragedies leave scars that time cannot heal, and some spirits never find the peace they so desperately seek. Rapa Nui may remain a place of beauty and mystery, but its legacy endures, a chilling reminder of the night when humanity's curiosity met the island's unforgiving wrath, creating a tale of horror that will never fade. Story number 7. Vanished in the void. I still wake up in the dead of night, the silence of my room pierced by the persistent ticking of the old clock on the mantel. It's been years since Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 disappeared, yet the memories of that fateful day haunt me like shadows that refuse to fade. Tonight, as the wind howls outside my window, I can almost hear the whispers of those lost souls, their voices carried away by the very air that swallowed them whole. I was a flight attendant on MH370, a role I cherished and took pride in. The day we departed Kuala Lumpur for Beijing was bright and clear, the sun casting a golden glow over the bustling airport. Passengers boarded with smiles and anticipation, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. I remember saying goodbye to my family at the gate, their embraces warm and filled with hope for my safe journey. As we ascended into the sky, everything felt normal. The hum of the engines was a comforting lullaby, and the cabin buzzed with the usual pre-flight excitement. But as we crossed the equator, the atmosphere began to shift. The sky darkened unnaturally, clouds swirling in patterns that defied logic. The temperature dropped rapidly, a chill that seeped into my bones despite the overhead heating. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, his tone calm yet edged with tension. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some unusual weather patterns. Please remain calm and follow the cruise instructions." Panic started to ripple through the cabin as turbulence intensified. The plane shook violently, as if caught in the grip of an unseen force. I moved through the aisles, reassuring passengers, my heart pounding in my chest. The storm outside was unlike anything I had ever seen, whirling vortexes of snow and ice, the sky torn apart by lightning that illuminated the cabin in stark white flashes. Then, without warning, the plane was engulfed in a blinding whiteout. Visibility dropped to zero, and the instruments went haywire. The captain's voice was barely audible over the cacophony of alarms and the howling wind outside. "We're losing control. Brace for impact." Everything went dark. I awoke to a world frozen in time, the cabin eerily silent except for the distant echo of my own breathing. The plane had come to a halt, suspended in an abyss of white. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, and an oppressive sense of dread settled over me. I stumbled out of my seat, disoriented, and looked around. The passengers were gone, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only the lingering scent of fear and the cold, sterile environment of the aircraft. Days, or what felt like days, passed in this suspended nightmare. The storm outside raged on, an endless cycle of blinding snow and howling winds. I tried to find others, but the corridors were empty, the seats vacant as if everyone had simply disappeared. The plane felt like a prison, trapping me in a void where time and space no longer made sense. Nights were the worst. The darkness was absolute, broken only by the faint glow of emergency lights that flickered intermittently. That's when I started hearing the whispers. At first, they were faint, barely audible over the storm, but gradually they grew louder, more insistent, voices calling out names, pleas for help, cries of agony and sorrow. It was as if the souls of the lost were trapped here with me, their spirits unable to find peace. I began to see shadows moving in the periphery of my vision, figures that vanished when I turned to look directly at them, faces contorted in pain and fear, eyes hollow and empty, staring into nothingness. They reached out to me, their hands passing through my body like smoke, leaving behind a chilling cold that numbed my senses. I felt their anguish, their desperation to escape this frozen limbo. One night, as the storm reached its peak, I was jolted awake by a sharp pain in my hand. I looked down to see frostbite creeping up my fingers, the skin turning numb and pale. Panic surged through me as I realized that I was freezing, my body succumbing to the relentless cold. Desperation drove me to search for warmth, to find a way out of this icy tomb. But the plane offered no escape. In my search, I stumbled upon the cockpit, the door ajar as if inviting me in. Inside, the instruments were frozen, the captain's seat vacant. The windows were covered in frost, distorting the view outside into a swirling blur of white. I sat in the pilot's chair, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. The whispers grew louder, surrounding me, a chorus of the lost voices intertwining with my own fear. "Help us," they cried. "Don't let us stay here forever." I closed my eyes, trying to push the voices away, but their sorrow was overwhelming. Images flashed before my mind's eye, passengers trapped in their seats, faces pressed against windows, trying to peer into the storm, bodies twisted in unnatural positions, frozen in moments of terror. It was a nightmare that I couldn't escape, a vivid reminder of the lives that had been snuffed out in an instant. Days turned into weeks, and I began to lose track of time. The storm never abated. The whispers never ceased. My body weakened, frostbite claiming my limbs, leaving me with only a few functional fingers and toes. The cold was unbearable, each breath a struggle against the frozen air that threatened to take my life. Yet, even as my body withered, my mind remained trapped in this eternal winter. One night, as I lay shivering in my seat, the whispers grew into a deafening roar. The shadows converged around me, their presence suffocating. I felt a force pulling me towards the heart of the storm, a vortex of ice and despair that threatened to engulf me entirely. The voices reached a crescendo, their final plea echoing in my mind. "Join us. Don't let the storm take you. I screamed, a raw, primal sound that was swallowed by the storm. But the pull was too strong. The icy grip tightened, and I felt my consciousness slipping away. The last remnants of my sanity torn apart by the relentless cold and the haunting whispers of the lost. When I awoke, I was alone. The cabin was silent. The storm had subsided, and the sun peeked through the windows, casting a warm glow on the frost-covered seats. Miraculously, the passengers were gone, leaving no trace of their existence. The plane seemed untouched, as if no time had passed at all. But I knew the truth. What I had experienced was no mere hallucination, but a gateway to a realm where the lost souls of MH370 remained trapped, forever bound to the storm that claimed them. Rescue teams eventually found the wreckage, scattered across the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. They brought me back to civilization, but the scars of that ordeal run deep. My fingers and toes are gone, remnants of my desperate fight against the cold. The psychological wounds are even deeper, haunted by the whispers and the apparitions that still linger in the corners of my mind. Years have passed since that tragic night, but the memories remain as vivid as the frost that once consumed me. On cold, silent nights, when the wind howls just right, I can still hear the whispers of those we lost, calling out from the depths of the storm. Their voices blend with the rustling leaves and the distant thunder, a haunting symphony that never truly fades. I often find myself staring into the darkness, wondering if the spirits of MH370 have found peace or if they remain trapped in their eternal winter. The mystery of what truly happened to that flight remains unsolved. But I know that the plane wasn't just lost to the sea. It was swallowed by something far more sinister, a void where the spirits of the lost are forever bound to the storm. The Great Blizzard of 1888 is etched into history as a tale of survival and loss. But for me, it's a personal nightmare that never ends. It's a reminder that some mysteries are too dark to uncover, and some spirits are too restless to find peace. As I share this story, I hope it serves as a warning to those who dare to challenge the unknown, to respect the forces that lie beyond our control. For in the heart of the storm, amidst the swirling snow and restless spirits, lies a darkness that can never be fully understood or escaped. And so, when the winds howl and the snow begins to fall, I remember the echoes of the Great Blizzard. I remember the faces of those we lost, their eyes filled with fear and sorrow, and I understand that some tragedies leave scars that time cannot heal, and some spirits never find the peace they so desperately seek. The storm may have passed, but its legacy endures, a chilling reminder of the night when nature's wrath and the spirits of the lost converged to create a tale of horror that will never fade.